15 seconds. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to be here among you for the inaugural function of the Diamond Jubilee celebrations of the India International Center. Our capital has a long standing tradition of rich cultural exchanges, which the IIC has been enriching for the past 6 decades. When the idea of the IIC was conceived in 1958 as an international platform for exchange of views, the world was coping with issues concerning a fair and stable international order and legacy burdens of two world wars. The process of decolonization was underway in Asia and Africa, with new aspirations influencing the emerging international order. As the contemporary world is going through a phase of transition, forums like the IIC become all the more relevant. The decades immediately after the independence of our country were marked by new institutions that included the IIC. Several eminent persons such as Dr. S. Radhakrishnan, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, and others helped actualize that vision. Crown Prince Akihito of Japan laid the cornerstone for the building in November 1960, underlining the institution's international character. It is also a happy coincidence that the center's Diamond Jubilee and completion of 70 years of India Japan diplomatic relations are happening this year. The IIC's international character also found a beautiful expression in the design of its building. Architect Joseph Allen Stein had designed several famous buildings in the capital, but the IIC in the vicinity of Lodhi Gardens commands a unique significance. The founding of this institution was done by women and men with a vision of India's future and its role in a world of international cooperation. The IIC stands for a vision of India as a vibrant democracy where it is possible to initiate dialogue in an atmosphere of amity and understanding with national and international participation. The founders of this institution had the foresight to see what could unfold in the years to come and how the IIC could be a part of developments in a new nation and also contribute to debates globally. Such debates have kept pace with time. Since its beginning in the early 1960s, programs at the center have reflected global and national concerns and continue to create awareness and influence public opinion on relevant issues because its close contacts with prominent academic and cultural institutions. The list of speakers who have addressed audience at the IIC is diverse and includes thinkers, activists, statesmen, and opinion makers. From Pearl S. Buck to Ivan Illich in earlier times, the list also has in recent times grown to include eminent personalities such as His Holiness the Dalai Lama, Henry Kissinger, etc. Eminent names from the world of literature like Mahasweta Devi and Amitav Ghosh also figure among many prominent speakers who addressed the audience here. Looking at these names, it is evident that the IIC has truly developed into a forum where divergent views are not only accommodated but also encouraged to enrich dialogue and discourse. I am glad to know that it was at the IIC in the little garden named Gandhi King Memorial Plaza that the late Narayan Bhai Desai narrated Gandhi Katha for a week in 2010. I have been told about numerous other memorable cultural events organized here. A Diamond Jubilee is an occasion for celebration in the life of any institution. The IIC deserves to be congratulated for having retained and sustained its original mandate. I am happy to learn that during its Diamond Jubilee year, the IIC has chosen to especially focus on programs related to women and gender. This reminds me of Kamala Devi Chattopadhyay, the great freedom fighter and social reformer who had played a key role in the making of the IIC. She was the one who laid the first stone for this building. She is known to have influenced Mahatma Gandhi to include women participants in the Salt Satyagraha. She was the pioneer among women who contested elections right after India's independence and thereby became a symbol of the struggle for women empowerment. As we celebrate the 75th anniversary of our independence with Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, let us also highlight the significant achievements of women and the several legal and social initiatives that seek to bring about change. There are several examples of Indian women who, before and after independence, have shattered many glass ceilings. Let us not forget the fearless women scientists of the Mars orbiter mission called MOM. Women were among the leading corona warriors who demonstrated extraordinary resilience and provided healing touch to save fellow citizens, often risking their own lives. Women's participation in the unorganized sector of our economy is very high. The formal economy needs to do much more to empower women workforce. Women should be encouraged to participate more in what is known as STEM, that is, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and management. National and global economies stand to benefit from their talent and their creative ways of responding to challenges. We would be considering this law soon and would make necessary amendments in it so that this law become as effective as the pollution laws. I would state certain things later on. We want that similar stringent law should be framed about felling of trees also. Along with this, I think that unless people's cooperation is there and until it takes the form of a people's movement, it will not yield the desirable results. I respect the opinions of the honorable members and feel that their feelings are very good and they have offered some very good suggestions. I would cite an example of the golden times to emphasize the importance recognition and respect that our ancient sages gave to the forests. An honorable member from Rajasthan was speaking here. I will tell you a story from Rajasthan which is 250 years old. According to this old story, the Maharaja of Jodhpur had once ordered the felling of trees for constructing a palace.